So when you're doing a retrofit door or window, and you need to take trim out and slip trim back in, you always try to reset your door or window to an even width from where your siding stops on both sides, right? So they ended up with roughly 3 7/16 side to side here. So they did a good job with that. And that's just gonna make your retrim way easier if you take that couple minutes to make sure that you have an even split. Other than that, you know, always cut your caulking when you do your removal. That way you don't break out a bunch of this hardy board, because sometimes, you know, the caulking's so strong, especially the Quad Max, that it'll peel layers of the siding off. So always cut your caulking first, then do your trim removal, then reset or replace or whatever you need to do with whatever opening you're messing with. And then go ahead and scrape, like what we do is chisel scrape, right? Because anytime you're gonna apply new caulking, you need to have a mostly clean surface. So we chisel scrape all this edge. And it's a little easier to do that before you slip the new trim in. So while I was doing whatever I needed to do, Aaron came up here and he cleaned up all the edges. And started getting the hose and everything set up while I was down there unloading the truck, right? So came up here, he cleaned up his edges. I got him his first board cut and passed up his hose and his first board, because again, we're working on a second story. And we're taking our time because this is a waterproof deck. And even though this is a pretty durable material, we're being very careful about anything sharp that we drop, anything on our ladder that could be pokey, any nail heads that might have popped off or anything that's metal. We're being super duper careful about that, because again, we don't want the responsibility of any punctures on the surface, right? So we're being very careful about that. And that's the basic principles of whatever we're doing, right? Because you don't want your damage to go any further than what you're repairing. So you be very, very careful whenever you're doing stuff like this, right? It's not the same thing as new construction, when there's less stuff in your way and this and that and the other, right? This is basically remodel or repair, even though this is a new construction house, right? So just be careful about that and take your time, and don't let anybody rush you. Because you rush, you forget to cut this right here, it breaks this board. Now your damage is here instead of just here, so now you have to replace this. But when you pull this, it damages that because you're still rushing, right? So it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. So again, take your time, slow down a little bit, and don't allow the damage to go any further than what you're patching or repairing. And that's gonna do you super duper justice, right? So then what we did was I square cut one end of this header piece for him, and he can pick whatever side he wants to put that on, and he'll just shove it back out tight to the siding where the old notch was, right? And then he'll get me a finisher number, and then that gives him something to bump his tape up against, and then pull his next number down to the bottom of the door. This is what he's gonna do, right? And maybe give me like an extra 1/8 of an inch sticking down. Not to the trim, or not to the siding, but to the door, because the door sticks down lower than the siding, right? Little things to consider when you're doing patchwork siding. So, and then sometimes you just have to go with what looks the cleanest, right? So if I stop this trim here, it's gonna look corny here, so I have to go to the lowest object. And that's just a little tip for you. Anyways, this is where we're at, this is what we're doing. Thanks for watching.